What if I told you the world isn't falling apart? It's revealing itself. Yeah, that was a mindset shift for me too. What if all of this chaos, the polarization, the economic anxiety, the fear isn't collapse, it's exposure? We're living in a time where people feel disoriented. I have had those moments here in a little bit. Overwhelmed and sometimes even powerless. Anxiety is rising. Trust is declining. Systems feel broken. But what if the system isn't broken? What if it is working exactly as designed? That's a challenge for me. Even me, your number one mindset disruptor. But here's the thing. Today's conversation is not for the faint in heart, because if this is evolution, then responsibility shifts right back to us. Yeah, I'm talking about you and me.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast, recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Disruptors, welcome back to Mindset Master Moments. I am your host, of course, Dr. Lisa, your number one mindset disruptor. And today we are challenging the narrative of collapse. Today's guest is Mr. Scott F. Paradis, a retired U.S. Army colonel, former congressional fellow in the U.S. Senate, national security fellow at Harvard, and the author of 11 books exploring leadership, money, human potential. His latest project asks a bold question. What's really going on? Apocalypse or evolution? And that's where all these ideas came. I am loving that I get to meet this man. Not only has he served our country in so many great ways, but he is leading a conversation that is very, very necessary. He is Mr. Scott Paradis, as I said. He has a podcast and he's written several books. Scott believes that chaos we're experiencing right now is not collapse, but it's transformation. That is a mindset shift. Scott, we welcome you to Mindset Master Moments. I'm excited for this conversation. I can't wait to hear your wisdom and knowledge. And I know we're going to walk away from this episode with a lot of shifts, but a lot of growth. So I'm ready for it. Welcome. Tell us who you are in your own words, what you do and why you do it.
Sure. Well, thanks. It's great to be with you. Really, this opportunity to engage, and I appreciate you giving me this platform to engage. I'm Scott Paradis. As we were talking before, I grew up in New Hampshire, and then after college, I enlisted in the Army. I went through a 31-year career with the United States Army. The Army, I had gone through college as a sociology major, so it was about people theory.
Yes.
And then when I joined the Army, it was about missions and getting things accomplished. And as I went through the Army, one of the things I learned, initially, I thought leadership was about command and control. And then as I spent more time in the Army, I really realized that what leadership was about building trust and cohesion.
Wow.
The folks who were concerned about status and maintaining control had units that were not performing their best. But I went through a career where I realized that leadership was fundamentally about helping people become better versions of themselves. When I retired from the Army, I wanted to continue that effort. So I got involved in personal development, personal growth. And I started to write books in this success arena. Wrote 11 books. And my most recent project is really looking at what's happening in the world around us. And I asked myself that question that you just introduced, which is what's really going on?
Yeah.
And framing it as apocalypse or evolution, people think of apocalypse as the doom and gloom. The word apocalypse really means revelation. It's an unveiling of truth. So I arrived at what we're going to talk about today is what's really going on. It's a revelation about what life is all about.
And you said that already blew my mind because that's correct. And I learned that so many years ago. I was very, very young when we studied the book of Revelation for those who read the Bible. And so when you talk about people always, like you said, it's always that, who the end, the scary end, zombies, what's taking over? Is it going to be computers? And so Revelation, and boy, without political or any of that stuff, so much is being revealed right now throughout the chambers of what we call planet Earth. So let's get right into it. People feel like the world is literally coming apart right now. There's wars, inflation, AI disruption, dreadedly political division, nothing new, just more hype. Why are you so confident this isn't a collapse? Like, because we're all thinking it's going down. And for me, I'm saying it's going down so it can come up. You don't see it that way. Tell us what your thoughts and your views are.
I'll get sort of right to the main point, and it really bridges to what you just said. Why don't I see it as collapse? Because ultimately, we are being forced into a personal decision. Personal decision is ultimately, which way am I going to go?
Yeah.
And if I want to go down the negative path, that is, you have free will to choose that option. And if you want to go to the growth path, the elevated path, you absolutely have that option. It's not up to me to decide for you or to judge you or the choice that you make. Neither one is bad. There is not good or bad, but there are always consequences.
Yes.
The consequences of all this turmoil that we're seeing, and we're seeing environmental upheaval, we have economic stratification, political polarization, accelerating technology, all come in on top of the personal challenges of loss that is just a part of human life. All of those things have converged to happen now in this time and space, and we are experiencing it. Life is accelerating. But you say, here's a question I always wrestle with. Why haven't leaders emerged to calm the waters and part the seas, so to speak? And I have come to is that ultimately this is forcing us each individually to make a personal decision. And we each have to make the personal decision to decide, am I going to rise? And you're familiar with the Bible talks about a new earth. Am I going to rise to the new earth? Or am I going to stay in the chaos and experience that more? Neither one is the wrong decision, but they each have consequences. And if you choose to ride the chaos, then you're going to ride the chaos wave. If you're going to choose, I'm going to rise to the new earth, then you're going to elevate to a totally new experience.
Yes. Oh, that is a mic drop. Love it, love it, love it. I concur. As you said it so well, I could see it. Because one of the things, and you can guide me, I've been saying to myself, is with everything that's happening, I don't necessarily have a sense of panic. There are times when I have concern, but I always come back to, what am I put on this earth to do? And how can I pivot this terrain to continue to do that? Because that's what I'm responsible for. Everything else and everyone else will fall in line as they should or would. Or I always like to say choose to. So that's the only thing I'm responsible for. Everything else is allowing myself to grow, experience, pivot. But the focus is still, why on earth am I here at such a time of this? What do you think about that? Is there anything else I can add or maybe subtract in that thought process?
Really, it's about this whole experience of life. And I would tend, if we really want to get philosophical about it.
Let's go.
You chose to be here.
Come on.
You chose to be here in this time to be a light for other people.
Yes.
And by you expressing who you are a light for other people to be who they are. That is, we chose to be here in this time of turmoil and evolution for a purpose, and that is for you to stay on your purpose. And I'm not going to compare myself to anyone else. I'm going to express myself as fully as I can. And that is all you're asked to do. Make the most of yourself. The challenge for us is we are social beings. So we often compare ourselves to other people. Well, they're doing this, or they're doing that, or they're getting better than me, or they're earning more than I am. And we start to say, well, I should follow or emulate them. No, you are a light. You are a spark of the divine. All your job is to let that spark just illuminate all of us.
Yeah.
That is your job. Just continue to illuminate, and don't worry about what everyone else is doing. That way, don't get caught in the emotion and the fear of all of the turmoil and chaos. In the end, it will work out. It is designed to work out. It always works out.
Yes. And that is the thing you have to tell yourself. And I heard someone, she has a way she said it, but everything is always working out for my good. And I feel like if you just keep saying yes and keep showing up, everything is always working out for my good. That's my thought process. And let's be real and honest, Scott. I'm going to be honest. I'm always transparent. That is not always the first place I go. But once I realize I'm veering off, I bring myself back to, I don't like how this feels. Yes, it's a little bit uncomfortable. I acknowledge that's what I'm experiencing tangibly. But what I know for sure is the last time I was uncomfortable, the last time I didn't like it, when I embraced and flow like water, it worked out and it was for my good. So what I have is a track record, I say, is I'm always winning. I'm 100% winner because life seems like it wants to take you out. And then here you go. So if I may ask, with us saying we're in such a unique time, we've never seen times like this before, but I'm only 45. Did my great grandparents had some crazy times like this too? Is this, if we're going with what you said, revelation, right? There's always going to be something to help us reveal. Talk to us about your thoughts on that.
Let me frame it. And I did some research as I framed that question, what's really going on? I sort of dug into the historical narratives about the times we're in. And if you look back, so one that you might be familiar with, Strauss and Howe were two think tank guys, wrote a book called The Fourth Turning. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Yes, I have, but I haven't read it yet. I just learned about it about a month ago.
Yes. So they wrote that book in the 90s, and they said their general premise is we go through a cycle. It's about an 80 or 90-year cycle, of the length of a human lifespan.
Yeah.
And it has 4 phases. And so it has a coming together phase, and then it has a I'm going to find my own way phase, and then we start going a little too far, and then there's the chaos phase. And they relate, they call the book The Fourth Turning because now they went back 500 years, but looking in the United States, they said, okay, the first turning was the Revolutionary War. 80 years later was the Civil War. 80 years later was World War II. 80 years later is now. So they are looking at it from a social framework,
Right.
social cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you read their book, and there's some crib note versions of summarizing their work. If you read The Fourth Turning, the way they've outlined it, it's very detailed and repetitive. So it's a longer read. But if you read the crib note version, it's kind of like what I just summarized. Now they get into archetypes and generations and all that. So there's a lot more detail.
Stuff that I get into. I go down those rabbit holes.
I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah.
But besides that, so there's the social framework.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other scientists, social scientists, who have the same sort of cyclical nature, and they're economists, cyclical nature.
Yes.
Now, Strauss and Howe say, like you opened with, if you look in your lifetime, we all go through one cycle. So it was the first time we're ever experiencing, you and I are experiencing, now I'm older than you, but the first time we're really experiencing this crisis.
Right.
Our grandparents experienced the Depression and World War II.
Right.
Every generation goes through it one full rotation, and so it's unique to every generation, and they think it's the first time this has ever happened on the earth. Because the writings, and what Strauss and Howe pointed to was writings every 80 years say, times are worse than they've ever been. We don't think it's ever been like this ever in history. But every 80 years, it's the same writings. They're saying, the younger generation, they don't know what's going on. They're lazy. The same things we complain about. So there's Strauss and Howe's version. There's the economics version. But now you go back. You look in the book of Revelation. You look at Daniel. You look at Isaiah. And you say, what are the end times pointing to? Now, just sort of overlay that on what they're pointing to. At the same time, you have indigenous knowledge. So the Hopi prophecy. You have 2012 of the Mayans. Then you have psychics and seers. And the psychics and seers are all pointing to about this same turbulent period. So what are they all pointing to? Now, some, if you say if you use that word apocalypse as the end, and if you use Revelation as the end, but if you read in Revelations, it talks about a new earth. It's a rebirth. It's an unveiling in the revelation. Now, I take that and I interpret it as an individual pivot point or choice point. And that is, we make the personal choice. Am I going to evolve? And if I use those terms, with the new earth, or am I going to stay in the chaos? Again, not right or wrong, but each choice has consequences.
Right.
The chaos is there's going to be a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of conflict. There's going to be a lot of violence. There's going to be a lot of destruction. All right, that's going to be my world. But if I choose that, so be it.
Yeah.
If I choose the new earth, then there's going to be connection, cooperation, joy, prosperity, creativity, a whole new life, a whole new way of being that we are going to open ourselves to. And I heard it put this way just the other day. It's not that we are becoming a new person. It is we are letting go of all of those things we've been pretending to be.
Love it. Oh, you're not becoming new. We're letting go of all the things we've been pretending to be. And the veil is removed anyway. So you get a choice. You can keep the pretense going. It's almost like doing something behind the curtain before showtime. And they pulled it back with the curtains before you were ready. And here you are. You're like, oh, I better get into character. Or you could just be like, you know what? I'm just not ready. And here's where we're going to go. We're going to, I love that visual. I'm very visual. So as you're speaking, I'm creating pictures. That's how my brain works. But underneath a lot of what I mentioned it early, people are actually sensing fear. What is beneath that fear that we're experiencing as we go into this new earth or revelation of ourselves?
Yes. That I would say, I would summarize all of those negative things as we're clinging to fear. And when we look at our lives economically, why do we not proceed? It's because generally it's fear, and it's fear of loss. It's fear of loss of status. It's fear of loss of things. It's fear of loss of income. But from a broader life spiritual perspective, it's fear of the unknown. Where do I go with that? And I think the true answer goes back to, do you really believe things always work out? If they do, then the fear has its purpose and it has its place. But the way to deal with it is to realize every time fear rises up in you, it's an emotion, is you got to step back and recognize, I'm feeling fear. Why am I feeling fear? And if you can intellectualize it, usually because you're fearing loss of something, you're clinging. So we cling, we hold on.
Our comfort zones.
Yes. And what we're trying to do is we're being spurred to move forward, to get outside our comfort, to let go. Now, letting go is the ultimate act of faith.
Ooh.
If you can let go, what you can let go of is that fear, then you're really saying, okay, to the universe, to God, however you want to frame it, that things will be okay, and I'm going to just release all of this resistance. Because this is the struggle, and this is what we're seeing with all the chaos around us. We're kind of in this middle, and we're looking left and right, and we're thinking, okay, if I just cling, I'm going to get through this storm. I'm going to hold on. And what keeps happening is, I'll frame it as the universe. The universe the wind keeps getting harder. The waves keep getting stronger because it's saying, you're being forced to make an actual decision.
Yes.
And as long as you cling, you're not making a decision. You're in a way making a decision. You're deciding to stay with the chaos. If you let go of that fear, if you let go, stop clinging, then a whole new world is going to open up. This world of magic that is you. You are a divine spark, and your mission is to shine. What you have to do is let go of all of those things. So the easiest for us, and I am absolutely no master of this,
Right.
but the challenge is with judgment.
Come on.
We judge ourselves, we judge others, we judge the circumstances, when the reality is we just got to go with the flow and let it all go. And if we can do that, we will be happier, we will be more satisfied, and the synchronicities will start appearing in our lives, that magic will happen. And we will move with that new earth just like we are destined to eventually. So
I love
where
that.
we're at.
If we just let it go You said it so beautifully. If you just let it go and let it flow. That's what you said. I love that. So let's talk about psychological chaos, or is it more political chaos right now, or a mixture of both?
Well, we're seeing political chaos, we're seeing economic stratification and all of these things. And it's because we're seeing the level as everything is accelerating. So the master plan, if I can frame it that way, the master plan is we're being pushed into a corner to make a decision.
Yes.
A personal decision. So it's not no savior is going to ride in on a white horse and say, Alisa, this is what you must do.
Come on
You
now.
are going to make a decision. Which way am I going to go? And I'm making it binary in this case. I'm making it binary. I'm going to go with the newer, or I'm going to stay with the old. The old is the chaos, the competition, the conflict, and all of that. So we're seeing manifesting is all this resistance and fear. So what we're doing is we're seeing things accelerate, and we're being pushed to make this decision. But every time we resist, the fear grows, the resistance grows. So we see even more and more chaos. So we could, now this has always been my druthers, is why don't we smarten up and make the choice earlier that we are all united, we are all connected, we're better off when each of us is better off.
Yes.
Rather than conflict and competition.
Right.
But instead, we react with judgment, condemnation, finger pointing, and fear. It all ultimately comes back to fear.
To the point we don't even, a lot of times I'm looking at arguments, I'm like, you guys are saying the same thing, but you can't hear each other. I mean, you just look at some of the stuff people get into online, I'm like, okay.
So to answer your question, is it political? Is it economic? Yes, but those are really the physical manifestation, so to speak.
Yeah.
It is ultimately psychological and internal. It's a consciousness choice.
Ooh, that's where it's going to go next.
So we've got to come to terms so that we can actually grow into that really expressive version of ourselves. And we don't hold ourselves back. And every time we judge someone, every time we condemn someone, every time we blame someone else,
come on,
what we're doing is we're separating ourselves from that other person. You are no longer me. Really, when I look in anybody's eyes, it's that the divine spark is in every single person I look at. And what I've got to do is realize that. That's my biggest challenge, is to realize that you are me. I am you. We are connected. We are all in this together.
Yes.
And once we realize that and actually embody that, then we are growing. We can then become the best version of ourselves and evolve through this evolution that we're all experiencing right now.
I love that. Such a very timely reminder is to remember, because I believe we know, you are me. We are created knowing, but we forget, and then we choose to not remember at some point. I believe we're confronted where you have those moments when someone you would never think, they don't look the way you think a savior would look, but then they rescue you. Maybe it was simply because you left your wallet on the counter and someone you would categorically never interact with says, ma'am, and you're like, and you're and for that connection, right, there's something sparks. Like you said, there's that spark. And that's that you are me and I am you. So what I hear you saying, and I want to ask you this, with the evolution, what is exactly evolving? Is it systems or is it consciousness? I know the answer, but we want to hear you break it down. Not systems, not consciousness, or is it a blend of both?
It actually, the system is a manifestation of our collective consciousness. So the challenge becomes, and this is where what we're seeing, this reality we are experiencing, is a combination of all of the individual choices we are making. And I make choices to judge people, condemn people, distance myself from people. All of that then manifests into this collective energy that becomes the reality that we're experiencing.
Wait a minute.
If we change our
we
consciousness,
created this.
Yes. If we change our consciousness, then the systems change and the reality we experience changes.
This is why we're coming together on conversations like this. And this is happening more and more and more and more. Not just, I mean, this is my little bubble here, right? Your little bubble here, but it's happening more because there is that consciousness shift. Messengers like yourself and what we're doing, we're bringing it, we're shifting the consciousness. And so that's, I feel, what brings, like you said, we'll get to, because I'm getting it. This is me getting what you're putting down, okay? So you correct me, because I'm just like the listener and the viewer right now that's just like, whoa, wait. What I'm hearing you say, Scott, is we created where we are now, but we also have the opportunity to create the opposite or where we want to be next. And we don't get to say if the president, if Congress, if the Senate, if the House, if the Dems, the Rebs, whoever haven't, or should have, or would have in 1980. We don't get to say that. We get to say, how am I showing up? What am I doing? And if I'm not on track with what I'm supposed to be doing, let me shift and get myself on path. And if everyone holds that responsibility, we will shift the consciousness, which will create a different set of systems and operational flow in our government, in our communities, in our country, and on the globe. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly it. One of the things, and I do it myself, is I say, don't they? And it's not. This is why I said nobody's riding in on a white horse. Nobody's saying we're going to fix all this, because ultimately I am generating this. So this idea of personal responsibility is personal power. Personal responsibility is personal power. And most of us get caught in the trap of denying, that's not my lane, that's not my responsibility. I'm not responsible for this mess that I'm seeing. Well, we're all contributing to it. We're all complicit. So if we just shine a little brighter, stop judging, condemning, and then actually live up to the values that we say we espouse or are aspiring to, then we can start to fulfill our full potential.
I agree. I said something recently on my social media. Responsibility to build families that heal cycles, businesses that circulate wealth, institutions that outlive personalities, legacies that do not pause every time the world shifts. 2026 is calling for maturity, not reaction. Execution, not performance. Collaboration, not competition, disguised as empowerment. We don't need another moment. We need a movement of builders. What I was saying, there was a piece here with what you said, and that is taking the ownership and the responsibility. Individual wins, not enough collective legacy. I felt like in my choice to do what you've encouraged us to do at the beginning of this conversation, that was me writing to my followers or people in my community saying, we got to take personal ownership, because that's the only way we bring collective healing and all the things, like you said, if we aspire to build a legacy, to create generational wealth, to have a better world, have better schools, have better quality water, more access to health, to all the human needs, things that we need, healthcare, education. It's going to be starting with us as individuals and the decision we make. This is so powerful. Like I am going, as you can see. Scott, let's talk about money, power, and the game we are playing. This was mind-blowing what you have to say on this. Nobody wants to talk about it, but you say money isn't wealth. It's a tool. That's my own word. It's disruptive. Can you explain that for us?
Yes. Now let me frame it this way. As you remember the old saying that they say this in politics, it's the economy, stupid. Remember that over and over again, it's the economy. If you were to look at people around America and around the world, for the most part, they will get back to dollars and cents sorts of issues as the ultimately motivating issue. So if we look at money, the concept of money is a completely made up concept. It is just an idea. It is a social construct that is a social contract.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the development of money over the centuries into what we have today, it was just, we are going to come to terms with a way to engage with each other. All wealth is the product of real human beings doing productive, constructive things for one another. Money facilitates the exchange of those productive, constructive things. Now, that's looking at it theoretically. What happens, in fact, with human psyche is we all decide on what we're going to use as money. In the old days, it could be grain, it could have been cattle, it could have been salt, whatever it might be. It eventually moved to metal, silver, and then gold. And then primarily what's being used now is what we call fiat money, money by declaration, which is primarily debt. But it's these agreements of what we're going to use to facilitate exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Once that becomes widely adopted, you and I, all of us together, we empower money. And money then becomes the most valuable of all commodities because we recognize it is the way to acquire everything else.
Mm.
So we are playing what I call the money game. We're all playing it. Most of us are playing it unconsciously. We don't know the rules, but we're playing it. There are two strategies, or you could divide it into two separate games if you like. One of them is the making game. This is the real economy. This is people connecting, collaborating, and creating value. So you can produce a product, you can produce a service, but you bring that value to the marketplace. And then you exchange that value. That's the real economy. That is how wealth is created. The other strategy, or the other game, if you will, is the taking game. This is an extraction game. It is, we're not enlarging the pie, we are dividing the pie. So we are competing to extract as much as we can, as fast as we can, and that's the game we're playing.
Uh-huh.
Now, that taking game is as old as human society. Society has progressed through the making game. This is the real, what we call the real economy, or in our modern terms, Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
In our modern terms, however, the making economy, which is the foundation of the economy, how wealth is created, is all the things that we do for each other. On top of that is the taking game. The taking, in our modern parlance, is essentially a financial game. It's Wall Street.
Yes.
It's concerned about ownership. Who owns what and who owes what? Most people believe they are playing the making game, and most people are, in fact. So they go to work, they contribute, they create products, they produce services, they do things for each other. This is how wealth is created.
Yes.
But we have a financial game that overlays that and says we're going to have a mortgage, we're going to have debt, we're going to have credit cards, we're going to have things that siphon off that value you create so that I can then get ownership of assets. So we're always, this is why most people don't realize they're working as hard as they can, spinning their wheels, doing all they can in the real economy, the making game, and somehow the taking game keeps spinning all of their excess value off away from them.
Yes.
Don't understand what's going on. So most of us are embroiled in this money game. And I take this money game and I frame it inside of what's really going on. And it's because we get embroiled in this. We have empowered money to be the most valuable of all things. And so we're focused on getting money when in fact we should be focused on creating value. And that creating value goes back to our true purpose. We've got to recognize we're all in this together. If we all connect, collaborate, and create, we're all going to be better off. We will all be better off when we are all better off.
Yes, we're all better off when we're all better off. Come on. Ooh, these sound bites. Oh my goodness. You just took us down money. Like I haven't heard it before in such a short space of time. This is so good. Let's ask you this. What is the difference between an empowering system and one that's disempowering us?
I would frame it as one that promotes the making is the empowering system. So it's one that is cooperative, collaborative, creative. It rewards the individual for their effort and their contribution, and we would all share that. Now, if you go back from a biblical perspective, it is about sharing your abundance.
Right.
All of us together. We all have special talents, unique talents. And this is what, when you look at Adam Smith, it was this idea of each person will contribute what they are best at. And we can each contribute what we are good at to the whole. That makes us all better off. But unfortunately, see, I'll frame the taking system is the evolution of conquering. In the old days, it was might makes right. And now, unfortunately, in this chaos time, might makes right is back. But the old system was might makes right. The biggest, the strongest, the ones who could put the biggest armies together, they'd beat everyone else into submission, and they would take everything they had.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that were egalitarian societies, they would build up all of this wealth and prosperity, and in would come the ones who were hierarchical societies, and they would crush the egalitarian society. So now we have hierarchical societies. But that is part of this fear and this clinging, because we always go back to, I don't want to lose anything. Well, ultimately, we don't own anything. We're only here for a short period of time. We have an opportunity to interact with each other, interact with stuff, but none of it, I'm not taking it when I leave here. So why do I get so worried about holding on to it, clinging? It's all fear-based. So the system that is empowering is that one that focuses on making. And it's one that advances the whole society and creates wealth. But we can't miss this, that we are all part of this environment. We're all part of this world. So it's not an extraction of resources from our Mother Earth. It is a sharing of everything that we have, so all of us advance together.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've also said that the system isn't failing. It's working as designed. What does that really mean?
Okay, I'm gonna put it two ways for you. One is the system that we are operating under right now is an extraction system. It is working exactly as designed. It's extracting wealth from the masses, and we're building it in the pyramid. We're shuttling all the wealth as moving up, but it's by design. That's the way the system's designed. I say that, however, then I'm gonna put it in the construct of it's getting so bad now that we're all being pushed to realize this and then make a choice. Do I want to stay with the old system? That chaos, competition, ultimately leading to violence, destruction, pain, and suffering? Or do I want to finally, I'm going to say this, after 12,000 years, we've tried this, 12,000 years of this. Competition and hierarchy. We're finally at a breaking point, an evolution, an apocalypse, a revelation to our true nature, which is we can step out of this illusion. We can step away from all of this pain and suffering, conflict and violence, competition, and instead go to a new earth.
Yeah.
Just like if we decide to do that, but it's a personal choice.
It's a personal choice. Wow. So if that's true, then people aren't victims. We are truly participants.
That's exactly right. And that's, because if you say deny complicity, I'm not responsible for any of that. When I say I'm not responsible, I'm giving away my power.
Giving away my power. Yeah, that's victimhood.
But if I'm complicit, if I realize, okay, this mess that's out there is a mess I've created, I'm complicit. Now, I didn't do I did not do everything. I'm just me.
Right.
But I'm complicit in the system. So how do I deal with that? Well, let me take my power back. I'm responsible. So what can I control? I can control the decisions that I make from here, every moment going forward.
Right.
Every time I make a better decision and I start releasing the condemnation and the judgment and the fear and all of those other things, and I realize all will be well if I just let go and I express who I am truly, then I will move to the new.
Oh, wow. Scott, we are going to come back to part 2 of this. Disruptors, you are enjoying this. We have brought so much value with Scott here already. Now flip over to part 2 because he's going to bring it all together. What do we do now? We'll see you on the next one.